The most dangerous thing in the world is not ignorance, but the illusion of knowledge. We live in an era where everyone is an expert on everything, from global pandemics to complex geopolitical strategies, simply because they watched a 10-minute video or scrolled through a few threads. This is the Dunning-Kruger Effect, a psychological trap where people with the least amount of competence in a field greatly overestimate their own abilities. They don't know enough to even realize how much they don't know. Charles Darwin once observed that ignorance more frequently begets confidence than does knowledge. The less you know, the more certain you feel. This is the tragic comedy of the human mind. The loudest voices in the room are often the emptiest, while the true masters sit in silence, paralyzed by the sheer complexity of what they have yet to learn. The elite understand that true power starts with the absolute admission of ignorance. If you think you've already reached the top of the mountain, you're likely standing on a tiny hill of garbage, completely blind to the Everest standing right behind you. In 1995, a man named McArthur Wheeler robbed 2 banks in Pittsburgh with lemon juice rubbed all over his face. He wasn't wearing a mask. He believed that because lemon juice works as invisible ink on paper, it would make his face invisible to security cameras. When the police caught him and showed him the footage, he was genuinely shocked, whispering, "But I wore the juice." This case led psychology professors David Dunning and Justin Kruger to a chilling conclusion. The skills you need to be good at something are the exact same skills you need to recognize that you are bad at it. If you lack the skill, you also lack the metacognition to judge your own performance. In the United States today, this is visible in every boardroom and political debate. We see people who have never managed a single employee giving macroeconomic advice, and people who have never read a peer-reviewed paper arguing with specialists. They are trapped at the peak of Mount Stupid, the point where a tiny bit of information creates a massive unearned amount of confidence. The journey to true mastery is a brutal, soul-crushing path. It begins at Mount Stupid, but if you are brave enough to keep learning, you eventually fall off a cliff into the valley of despair. This is the moment when you realize how vast the subject actually is, and how little you truly understand. This is where 90% of people quit. They would rather stay confident and wrong than uncertain and learning. They retreat back to their shallow certainties because the weight of their own ignorance is too heavy to bear. The elite, however, embrace the valley. They know that imposter syndrome is often a sign of high competence. In the high-stakes US tech sector and medical fields, the most brilliant minds often feel like frauds because they are acutely aware of the infinite variables they cannot control. While the fool is certain, the wise man is full of doubt. The goal of the sovereign mind is to cross the slope of enlightenment and reach the plateau of sustainability, where confidence is finally backed by evidence, not ego. The management paradox, research from US organizational psychologists, shows that the most incompetent workers are 50% more likely to believe they deserve a promotion compared to their high-performing peers. This leads to the Peter Principle, where people are promoted until they reach their level of total incompetence. Financial overconfidence. The FINRA Investor Education Foundation found that 70% of Americans believe they have high financial knowledge, yet only 34% could pass a basic financial literacy test. This gap is a primary driver of the predatory lending industry in the US. The social media feedback loop data from US tech platforms shows that highly confident misinformation is shared 70% more frequently than nuanced, evidence-based facts. The Dunning-Kruger Effect is the literal engine of the viral internet. Medical error statistics. In the US healthcare system, diagnostic overconfidence is cited as a leading cause of preventable medical errors. Doctors who are highly certain of a diagnosis are significantly less likely to order the life-saving tests that would prove them wrong. Friedrich Nietzsche spoke of the last man, a creature who has no ambition and believes he has discovered everything worth knowing. The Dunning-Kruger Effect is the factory that produces these last men. They are satisfied with their shallow opinions, and they confuse volume with truth. In the American workforce, the data is staggering. A study in the Harvard Business Review found that nearly 40% of U.S. managers lack the basic technical skills for their roles, but believe they are in the top 10% of performers. This creates a competence gap where the loud and incompetent rise to the top of organizations, while the quiet and brilliant remain in the shadows, overlooked because they are too honest about the limitations. To break this cycle, you must become your own harshest critic. You must be willing to murder your own certainties every single day. If you aren't questioning your own expertise, you aren't an expert. You're just a fan of your own reflection. Robert Greene warns us that the greatest generals are those who never stop being students. They treat every victory as a fluke and every defeat as a masterclass. They avoid the Dunning-Kruger trap by surrounding themselves with people who are smarter, faster, and more cynical than they are. If you are the smartest person in your circle, you are in a dangerous circle. You are feeding your ego while starving your intellect. True sovereignty is the ability to say, "I don't know," without feeling inferior. The world is too complex for your tiny ego to handle. Stop trying to look like you have all the answers and start asking the questions that no one else is brave enough to ask. The light of truth only enters through the cracks of your uncertainty. The data from the U.S. consumer market further proves this. Financial literacy surveys show that Americans who score the lowest on objective tests regarding debt and interest rates consistently rate their own financial knowledge as above average. This misplaced confidence leads to the $1.13 trillion in credit card debt currently weighing down U.S. households. People think they understand the game, so they play it and lose. In the world of social media, the expertise gap has become an abyss. Algorithms reward confidence and charisma over accuracy and nuance, making Mount Stupid the most profitable place to be for influencers. But profit without competence is a bubble. Eventually, reality catches up. The elite don't play for the likes of the ignorant. They play for the respect of the masters. Arthur Schopenhauer argued that every man takes the limits of his own field of vision for the limits of the world. The Dunning-Kruger Effect is the wall of that vision. To break it, you need to develop the scientific mindset, the ability to look for evidence that proves you are wrong, rather than searching for validation that you are right. Most people are confirmation bias machines. They only listen to what makes them feel smart. But if you want to be sovereign, you must seek what makes you feel small. You must look at the giants of history, the Marcus Aureliuses and the Leonard Odos, and realize how much further you have to go. Confidence is a luxury for those who don't have to deliver results. For those of us who do, competence is the only currency that matters. In the medical field in the USA, a phenomenon known as the Sophomore Surge occurs where second-year residents are more likely to make fatal errors than first-year interns. Why? Because the interns know they are ignorant and follow the rules, while the second-year residents think they have figured it out. Their unearned confidence kills. This is the same reason why retail investors in the US stock market lose billions every year trying to time the market. They know just enough to be dangerous, but not enough to be successful. They are blinded by their own initial beginner's luck. The master treats every day like day one. He knows that the moment he thinks he is the best, he has already started his decline. So, look at your life right now. Where are you being the loudest? Where are you most certain that you are right? That is exactly where your Dunning-Kruger trap is waiting for you. That is the area where you are most blind. True mastery is not the absence of doubt, but the management of it. It is the ability to act with precision while knowing that you might be wrong. Subscribe to join the intellectually sovereign. Stop being the loudest person on Mount Stupid. Start the long, painful walk through the valley of despair. That is where the real work begins. The bridge to the past is burning, and the only way forward is through the truth of your own ignorance. Stand your ground.